Guidance is internal. Ignition sequence starts. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Permission to board. Permission to come aboard. Permission to board. Permission to bring me aboard. Permission to come aboard.
Welcome to the Permission Granted podcast. Here's DA.
All right, welcome inside the freshest episode of the Permission Granted podcast, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. Just a little disclaimer, because we have an iTunes feed and a SoundCloud feed that has both this and full show podcast, just remember that they're all kind of coming in the same feed. So just look for the different titles, because you'll see PGP number 22, 23, what have you, which is the Permission Granted podcast, which is all off of the air stuff. That you're not going to listen to on the show, that you won't hear on the show, and then everything else will be full show podcasts, so you can catch up on a daily basis with the regular show. So that's on iTunes. Just search, if you're looking for it at iTunes, search The DA Show, CBS Radio, and then on SoundCloud, the same exact thing. But we always tweet them out and put them on Facebook as well, the links to all of these things. And every Permission Granted podcast, the weekly stuff that you won't hear on the air, we post on YouTube as well, our YouTube channel, youtube.com/The DA Show. Over the weekend here in New York, it was an incredible radio event. And I know that we have a lot of listeners that are not New York-based. And because I've worked in a number of cities like Miami and Boston and Kansas City, we have a lot of people there. But because we're on nationally on CBS Sports Radio, most people that listen to the DA Show are not in New York. But I thought this was an interesting enough topic because it was sports radio-centric. And I thought it was the very best of the sports radio listener. And if you listen to my show, I hope you do know, and it comes across, how much I appreciate the listenership and kind of the vitality and the creativity and really the work that can go into the listeners being part of the show. You know, if I just flipped on the radio or I flipped on the microphone and for 4 hours talked to myself or guests, I don't think the show would have the same vibrancy it does by having you as part of it. And when I went to this event over the weekend, it was called Francesa-Con, which is kind of an honoring, a salutation, a salute to a legend in sports radio, Mike Francesa, who does afternoons on WFAN in New York. You probably have seen him on either when he was simulcast on the Yes Network or now he's on Fox Sports 1 and Fox Sports 2 at simulcast. So you probably have heard of Mike. Maybe you've seen him on blogs or YouTube clips or whatever. But anyway, super fans of his and WFAN affectionately call themselves Mongo Nation, and they threw a Francesa Fest, and this was year 2 of it. So we're going to have one of the organizers of this join us coming up here momentarily, but I thought it was the very best of sports talk listeners because it was not organized by the station. There was no affiliation with WFAN. There was no affiliation with a sales team of WFAN or CBS Sports Radio, the conglomeration. And when listeners do that, when listeners bring it together organically, first of all, I'm so appreciative that there are listeners out there that feel that way about sports talk, because it makes me feel like what we do is more important than just, your kind of silly filling time for 4 hours a day talking about whether football's inflated or not. I love that there's that connection. I love that there's that passion that comes with this as well. And so I just thought this was the coolest event. So even though it was New York oriented, I thought this was something that kind of carried over for anybody that listened to sports talk radio and kind of felt a certain way about a show and felt a certain way about a radio station. So that's why I wanted to delve into this. All right, joining us here on the podcast is one of the brains behind the operation, one of the mad scientists, one of the evil geniuses behind Francesa-Con and Francesa-Con 2, Ron Haraka, joining us here. What's going on, Ron?
Not much, DA. How about you?
I'm doing good, man. I know that you got to be thrilled with the turnout, and you actually did this with your buddy Mike, right? So you guys kind of came together and put this thing on.
Correct. Mike Leboff and I, last year was the first year we did it, and it was just a spur-of-the-moment thing. He shot me a text. He was like, we should do Francesa-Con, and, kind of just had an image of what it would be, and I was like, yeah, let's do it. So we put it together, and here we are.
All right, but that doesn't make any sense when somebody just sends you a text and says, let's do Francesa-Con, because there is nothing that exists like this in the history of ever, unless you consider it's like Comic-Con for a sports talk radio host who is not part of the actual proceeding. So what is that original brainstorm like a year ago?
I mean, I don't know. We had been working together and blogging together for a while at the time, and we were always coming up with ideas and stuff. And I think we got pretty aligned to the fact where I pretty much just knew what he was talking about. I mean, it was a FrancesaCon for Mike Francesa. And that, that's what it was last year. It was a bar crawl, kind of like what FrancesaCon is. This year it was a little bit different. But yeah, I mean, at that time we were kind of getting into the whole cult following on Twitter and Mongo Nation, and we enjoyed that whole thing, and thought it would be a good way to bring the community together. So as far as brainstorming goes, there wasn't really much to it. We had a buddy of ours put together a flyer. We fired up a Twitter, and it just took off. We originally thought it was just going to be us, our friends, and maybe a few diehard fans. Had no idea it was going to be this big.
And so Francesa-Con 1, which was a bar crawl, you thought might be, let's say, 25 people. How many ended up turning out?
Yeah, around that, 25, and we ended up having over 500.
So you're at this first bar, and people just keep coming and just keep coming and just keep coming.
Yeah, the bar was at capacity. It was completely packed. And yeah, we didn't really know what to do or what to do with everybody. We were like, hey, try to get to these bars too, because we had a bunch of other ones, on the map, and we're like, try to get here, and it's tough to tell a crowd what to do. So, but it was a huge success, and there were no problems or anything. But yeah, way bigger than what we expected.
For those that are outside of the New York City area, I'm sure many of the people that are listening right now know Mike Francesa, but they probably don't understand Mongo Nation or get that reference. So that's kind of this band of brothers that listens to WFAN religiously. And how did Mongo Nation come up, and what does it exactly reference?
So, I mean, yeah, you pretty much nailed it. It's a band of brothers. It's a community. Mike Francesa fans, number one, but also New York sports fans, New York sports radio fans. It was started by this guy. He's known on Twitter as Oreo Mongo. He's the quote-unquote CEO of Mongo Nation, and it's pretty much just the nickname for the diehard fans. I mean, you listen to Mike Francesa, watch him on TV, tweet 90% of the time in the way that Mike Francesa talks. You love them. You get a kick out of them. It's an all-encompassing thing where it's just a great community of sports fans, really.
But does Mongo itself reference Mongoloid, like the earliest man?
No, that's a good question. I've actually wondered the same thing and have never gotten a true answer. Your definition right there is what I actually gave to somebody else one other time, and they were asking me the same thing, and I was like, yeah, I don't really know. I mean, maybe it's short for Mongoloid, but and I really couldn't tell you, and I really still have no idea. I mean, at this point, it's taken on a whole new form, and it's me, the Mike Francesa fan. So I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe it's something we'll never know the true meaning behind.
I've always thought that maybe it referenced it was kind of a self-deprecating term for Neanderthals that would just kind of grunt and listen to sports talk all day.
That's actually not bad. That could be close. That could be close.
So you end up doing FrancesaCon 2 just a couple of days ago on Saturday, and I had a chance to go down there, and I just, from being around radio and being in radio for my career and watching how events happen and how stations kind of plaster themselves all over it and organize, I thought this was damn near a miracle, not because I didn't think it couldn't be done, because I've never seen organization like that, an event like that put up that was not organized through the radio station. WFAN didn't organize it. This wasn't through a sales team. This was all done grassroots by fans of the show and the station. I just thought this is one of the coolest things I've ever been a part of because it was really grassroots and organic. So was it just you and Mike that organized the whole thing, like renting out Irving Plaza, getting the band, putting that whole thing together with the charity and the benefits and the merchandise that you could bid on?
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, and it wasn't just us. We actually had the help of a lot of people in Mongo Nation. We kind of, we reached out to certain people who we knew were either influential on Twitter or people reached out to us. Like one guy, for example, he's known as Mark Mongo on Twitter. He kind of helped us out with hooking up Urban Plaza, and he made that connection. We had our family and friends help out and everything. So, I mean, as far as organizations go, it was, like you said, just us, a grassroots thing. But it wasn't just the two of us. It was really everybody chipped in. A lot of people had ideas, and they helped out, and, were able to help make it a success.
Here's why I love it, is because radio, which is one of the things I love about working in radio, is a different connection that listeners have than viewers of a TV show have. It's different than almost any other kind of realm that we have a platform, because it's so intimate. And I think the people that listen to Mike, just like they listen to sports talk radio across the country, have this bond, and it's an unspoken bond. And so it does create these types of events and these types of grassroots. You would just never see this around a TV show, say. I mean, you know how much organization goes into, like, College Game Day? You couldn't just get an organic College Game Day crew to just kind of get together, especially without College Game Day being there. But you guys kind of were able to do it. So how rewarding is it to kind of just meet people that are all in it for the same reasons, that you have a bond that you don't even really, you wouldn't know unless you actually met them face to face, but it's kind of unspoken.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. It's like I said before, it's really just a community, and everybody's doing it from a place of love. Nobody's trying to get anything out of it or anything. It's like a guy you've never even met before, and he's all of a sudden your best friend. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Which is wild to define Mike this way, because Mike Francesa, it can be churlish, he can be short, he can be a bully, he could be all of these things, and yet you look at him as maybe your best friend. So what is it about him that, is it just because he's there every single day, or is there something about his personality that you actually see kind of past maybe the harsh exterior?
Well, I mean, in terms of radio, I think he's a fantastic entertainer. He's a fantastic source for sports news, and so that's really how it starts. But I will say that throughout all this process, I think myself and Michael, my partner, and the fans, everybody else, got to see a different side of Mike and his quote unquote human side. Not to say that he was a bad guy, because I never really thought that, but I know he catches a bad rap sometimes. And he's actually really a good guy, and he was in support of this. I think it took a little convincing, but in communications with him, and obviously on Saturday you saw him, and what he had to say about it afterwards. He's just a regular guy like the rest of us who loves sports, and maybe he comes off a little differently, but I've definitely begun to see him in a different light, and really appreciate who he is and what he's all about.
Which is interesting, because I'm now 35 years old, going to be 36 this year, and I grew up listening to WFAN, being a native New Yorker myself, and I always wondered if the listenership of the WFAN crowd was going to get older and older and older, because it kind of, Mike has been there forever, and Mike and the Mad Dog were an institution forever. Now, I think Boomer and Carton have a fresh sound and a new sound that we didn't have in the New York City airways for a long time. And maybe Evan and Joe the same way, because Evan's a little bit younger as well. But I always wondered, what would be Mike's listenership? But you're a guy in your 20s, and so I guess it doesn't seem old to you. It seems like it's still fresh and good and something that you want to listen to, even if you're a guy in your 20s, like many of Mongo Nation is.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I used to listen to him as a kid, not as much as I do now, or even as a teenager, and I feel like I'm just now starting to appreciate what he brings to the table. So it is still fresh, because I'm still new. I'm still fairly new to the whole thing, or to what Mike Francesa is. So I mean, I think he's still relevant for sure, especially with the young crowd. If you see the demographic that was there. I guess I don't know if it's something you can really explain. Just that he's number one. I guess I don't know.
Well, there is a brashness, a bravado that Mike has, that whether it's taunting Michael Kay, whether it's the number one, whether it's about the ratings and whatnot, whatever it is, there's something that I think New Yorkers maybe gravitate to, because we believe New York is the greatest city. And so there's something very representative, right? So that ego, that arrogance that Mike has on the radio also makes him very endearing to a lot of people.
Absolutely. I would agree. I think he definitely has a certain pulse of what it means to be a New Yorker. It fits in very well.
So, if you're part of Mongo Nation, does that mean you cannot be a fan or listen to Michael Kay? For those that don't know, outside of New York area, Michael Kay is the voice of the Yankees on the Yes Network on television, and he hosts on ESPN New York the show that goes up against Mike. So is everybody kind of anti-Michael Kay then?
I'm probably not the best person to answer that question. That's better served for one of the higher-ups of Mongo Nation.
Oh, wow. Okay, we got to go to the top for this question.
Yeah, we're really, we're just the guys who did this event and tried to bring everybody together. We're not influencers or case makers of any kind. We just, we kind of wanted to just bring everybody together. I mean, I don't really care. If you want to go listen to Michael Kay, that's fine. Personally, I don't listen to him, but that's I'm sure there are people who do, and whatever. I don't think it's required of you to hate anybody else or anything like that. I try to focus more on the love aspect, that who we're loving as opposed to who we're hating. So.
Is there a bit of parody involved in this? Because when Francesa-Con first started up, and you see the T-shirts made by Barstool or whatever, he becomes a caricature, right? He's got the gray hair and the sunglasses and the thick New York accent and the little itty-bitty earphones, and people are dressed up as Diet Coke bottles, whatever. So how much of this is an element of parody and kind of like sarcasm?
There's definitely an element of that. I mean, I guess it's a lot. It's a big part of it. But imitation is the highest form of flattery. And like I said, you see guys who tweet, and they tweet in his accent and the way he talks, and it's just a lot of fun. I mean, it's part making fun, but it comes from a place of love. But it's a big part. You can go online and see videos of guys from Francesa-Con who are, screaming in his voice, or, Andy Pettit is a starting pitcher, and all those famous lines and everything. And that's just a great way of showing passion. He does. That's how he shows his passion, and I think that's how us Mongos, do the same thing.
One of the coolest elements I found, the dynamics that I found at Francesa-Con, was this kind of overall sense of self-deprecation that. Nobody was taking themselves too seriously. And I love that because it was kind of everybody together to just kind of celebrate, have a good time. And it was highlighted to me with T-shirts that said on the back of it, "We're not talking hockey today," which is kind of a famous Mike line that Mike does not want to talk about the Rangers. He does not want to talk about hockey because he feels like no one cares. And there's always the Rangers kind of rats that come out of the woodwork that want to talk about the Rangers, especially in the playoffs. And yet, more than any other chant, there was a "Let's Go Rangers" chant like 7 times in a Potvin sucks. So you would have a million Rangers fans wearing a T-shirt proudly that said, "We're not talking hockey today." To me, that kind of typified how cool the attitude of everybody was.
Definitely. I mean, you put it perfectly. You can't take yourself too seriously. Just there to have fun and celebrate. And I think that's, if you're a fan of Francesa, you can't really take it too seriously. The people who say they hate him or that they don't like to listen to him, I think they, got to lighten up a little bit. Just enjoy it, for what it is. It's sports, it's supposed to be fun. So I think we try to, embody that spirit a little bit.
You went from 500 people doing a bar crawl to 1,000 people at Irving Plaza and a band and a silent auction and raising all this money and Mike showing up. How can you ramp this up for year 3? I mean, the bar keeps getting too high for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. It's a fun challenge for sure. He said, he mentioned if we do this again next year, I'll get the real thing in reference to Mad Dog. So that hopefully is something to look forward to, and hopefully that comes to fruition. So that could definitely be a way to top this year. And if we get more people, we'll see if we have to move to another place, or we'd love to stay at Irving Plaza as well. So we'll have to see the kind of response about who's going to come and how many people are going to come. And I don't know, Mike and I were pretty creative guys. We like to come up with some outside the box things every now and then. So I'm sure we'll figure out ways to top this year's. I mean, we got a year to figure it out. So I'm sure we'll be able to improve upon it every year.
Were you guys a little worried when you realized you had to charge money? You guys ended up charging about $15 per person when you needed to get about 1,000 people, I guess, to sell at Irving Plaza. Were you nervous that people wouldn't pay that?
We were a little bit in the beginning, and that was probably one of the biggest obstacles in planning the whole thing. Just the internal debate of what do we do we charge, how much, but luckily it all worked out. I mean, it was for charity, and 15 I guess ended up not being too much. I mean, obviously the place sold out, so it was a concern, but again, it's a community, everybody's all friends, and I think everybody understood it, and there weren't really any complaints or anything like that, so it all worked out.
I loved the costumes that were there as well. I mean, you had some really creative costumes. Number one, without even being a costume, I saw a guy in a Turk Wendell jersey wearing the Turk Wendell beads. I mean, a Turk Wendell like jersey, like Mets jersey from like 2000. And I saw a guy in a Xavier Nady jersey, which is fairly epic, and it was like 3 sizes too small. Also, though, you had the guys that just went all out, and somebody dressed as a Diet Coke bottle, the Diet Coke Pope, where Francesa is known as the Sports Pope, and this guy is wearing a pontiff hat made out of a Diet Coke cardboard box, and an entire staff made out of like 12 to 15 empty Diet Coke bottles. You had guys dressed up as Mike, guys dressed up as Russo. You just kind of had everything in there. Did you have a favorite costume?
It was without a doubt, and we had a loose best costume contest, and the winner was who you said, the guy who was the Diet Coke Pope, who had the staff and everything. I think that was far and away the best costume. We actually remembered him from last year. He came and he wore just the Diet Coke can. So, and we had talked about, we also ran into him at Bar A over the summer for the WFAN thing in his normal clothes and recognized him and had a chat. But so we knew he was going to be back, and we knew he was going to be wearing that Diet Coke can. But it was amazing when he showed up that he had the hat and the staff, and he just for another guy just taking it to the next level, and it was amazing. It totally blew us away. That was by far the best costume. All right, the most important question before we let you go is, do you believe that Mike did doze off when Sweeney Murdy was on the air with him? Because Mike insists no, but the evidence would suggest otherwise. I mean, the evidence suggests that he did. I mean, it's like Deflategate. I've done the same thing in a couple of college classes, and I've had the same reaction when waking up, so I know what it's like. And I think it looks like he did, and I'm a little convinced he did, and I think it's nothing to be ashamed of. I think he might take it to his grave that he didn't, but it's not a knock on him or anything. He's still the best regardless. Hey, Sweeney can be boring sometimes when he's over Yankees pitching changes and whatnot. Ron Haraka was one of the cohorts that started this whole Francesa-Con, and now after year 2, a huge success. Ron, congratulations, you and your buddy Mike, for organizing the whole thing, getting everybody together. I just thought it was one of the coolest events that I had been a part of. So congratulations to you guys, and I can't wait for next year, man. Go get it. Appreciate that, yeah. Appreciate it. Good talking to you. You too, man. Be good, Ron. All right, thanks so much to our guest, Ron Haraka, who joined us here on the show. And Mraz joins me now as part of the crossover. And Mraz, both you and I, native New Yorkers, grew up listening to WFAN. You worked at WFAN full-time for a couple of years before you took the job as my producer on the CBS Sports Radio Network side of things. I've done some fill-in stuff for the Fan, but I really thought, and you didn't make Francesa-Con, I really thought Francesa-Con was about more than the Fan, the fans of WFAN, the Fan. Right. I thought it was about how you could mobilize 1,000 people that listen to sports talk and not have the radio station affiliated. It was amazing. When you really break it down like that, it's got to be one of the most surreal and amazing organized events ever. And I don't think I'm overstating that, because when you think of any major event, it's this huge committee funded by these companies behind. These are literally 2 regular guys basically using Twitter and social media behind other people who have a common interest in them, Mike Francesa and the Fan, and organizing this extraordinary event. It's unbelievable.
It really is.
It was unbelievable. When I walked in, it was unbelievable because I walked in with my buddy Pete, and he and I grew up together and listened to WFAN and Mike. And now, I mean, Francesa has been on the air since '87.
Right.
So he's been on the air for
my whole life.
He's been on the air for nearly 30 years.
Yeah.
So there hasn't been a day you've been alive that he wasn't on the air,
which is crazy.
Yeah. So we walked in there, and we just thought it was the coolest thing because all the listeners there didn't take themselves seriously. It was just kind of an event to have fun. And I've had the good fortune of throwing a couple of these types of events surrounding my show, but nothing to that extent. I mean, they rented out Irving Plaza, 1,000 people paid admission to get in, what have you. But I just thought it was so cool, and it said a lot about the listeners. It said a lot about the people that mobilized. It said a lot about their senses of humor. And I just think they're, when you listen to political talk or you see kind of the fights that go on in news talk and political talk, it's usually real angry. You know?
Of course.
It's negative and angry and it's divisive. The sports talk listener generally just gets a kick out of things, and everyone is just there drinking and dancing and having a good time and making fun of one another. Chanting, Potvin sucks and whatever.
Well, I think the beauty of what you're saying, too, is when it comes to sports talk and it comes to this, especially in New York, where a lot of this took place, where you have basically two teams at least of every other sport.
Yeah.
No matter how much you argue over teams and sports, there's something about sports talk where at the end, you kind of joke around and have a beer over it, and there's nothing ever cutthroat or something about that. Everybody's still united in their front, which is kind of a weird, quirky thing about sports.
Totally. And I thought this event also was really interesting because, as you know, New York is so expansive and there's so many people and it's so spread out that it's hard to get little clubs, right? It's really hard just because if you bring in somebody from the end of Long Island and somebody in from Jersey, they could be part of the same fandom and live 3 hours apart. You could live 4 hours apart.
Which is unbelievable, the whole radius that it encompasses.
Yeah, and so it's when you have 25 million people and so many sports teams and so many boroughs and parts of it, it's hard to get people centralized in a location and have a good time. And they did it, which was I loved. And I got to tell you, Mraz, it got my juices flowing, and I feel like now I've
got the juices flowing.
I certainly wouldn't put our show next to Mike and the Man. Mike is a Marconi Award winner, I think. The Fan is at least,
right?
And he's in. I'm sure he's in Hall of Fames, and he's kind of. But it did remind me that our listeners would love an excuse to drink.
Right.
Basically, that's
right. No, listen, we have our cult following. There's plenty of those mothership listeners out there and stuff like that. I think the different part of it is we got guys in Kansas City, guys in Boston, guys in Pittsburgh, from all over the place, which makes it very tough.
I know. So it would have to be on a much smaller scale, and it would probably be like me, you, and Schwartz, or me, you, and Brock at a bar with like 5 other guys drinking beers, like in Green Bay or something like that.
Right,
but,
exactly. Still be pretty cool, though.
It would be pretty cool. So I just thought that the event was so cool, and somewhere down the road that maybe we could do something like that, because I thought the whole attitude of it and the whole vibe of it was so cool, and Mike really liked it. And you've worked with Mike. Mike's not an easy guy to please.
No, you never know what you're getting. He's like a box of chocolates or whatever. But for him to show up like that, and it was for a good cause. A lot of the money went to charity, if not all of it went to charity. It shows a lot about Mike too, that he understands it and he'll embrace it. He's one unique character, and that's what it was all about. It was a good job by him getting out there.
We only have one more football game left, and we're all going to start going through football withdrawal.
Big time.
So I feel like we on the DA show have to create a sporting event to supplement this. And
have we done something like this before?
Well, a little bit like the hot dog eating contest.
40-yard dashes, hot dog eating contest, wing eating contests. We've been through the rigors.
Yeah, I'm not quite ready for football to be over. And I'm excited about this NBA season because I love all the new juice, the new blood.
Little Atlanta Hawks, Wizards, Warriors. Who are we getting in the finals here? You never know.
I love that. And that's going to make things real interesting. And college basketball should be interesting with March Madness. But we do have now February that's kind of the void.
Brutal.
And I think in February we need some type of a sporting event. So I don't know what it's going to be. Eating contests they've served us well.
Yeah, I'll say this about eating contests.
But you're on a diet too.
I'm on a diet, so I have to watch that. But I will always put aside my health for the sake of the show.
That's good to know.
As has been poignant. I think what we have going for us here, though, is a new cast of characters other than me and you, where a lot of that went through Brock and Schwartz, and last year we brought in Badlands Booker for a hot dog eating contest. We have a new pig on the show in James Ward.
Yes.
And we have a health nut in Steve Moralia, but he can still eat too. You never know. We got some new characters there. I might have some new challenges if we go through the eating contest. And where Kobayashi got to a point where Joey Chestnut to throwing him in a hot dog eating contest. So who knows when it comes to eating? Maybe James Ward's just that challenger we've been looking for me.
Maybe he's the man we've been looking for.
Right, exactly. Maybe I become like a villain now, and the fans get behind Ward to take me down. Almost like a WWE-style theme.
You're right. This could really turn the show on its ears, really.
And you know, I'll get very defensive very quickly if that happens.
I know, because could there be a challenger to the Thictator throne?
We've heard a lot of rumors about coups to my Thictatorship.
Yeah.
And if they have a guy on the show to get behind to lead that coup, boy, that could be the first time my Thictatorship gets in real jeopardy.
I will say last night, which was Tuesday night show, we're taping this podcast before Wednesday night show.
Big reveal there.
Tuesday night show had all of the elements of the overnight show.
Oh, it did. All it took was one crazy caller.
Last night was a weird show. Last night was a weird show from top to bottom. We had some great guests. We had Dante Hall join us, former All-Pro. We had Jake Plummer join us, Jake the Snake, talking about Russell Wilson's comebacks. But it had some elements, and I think there was a concern from some of our old-school listeners that listen to overnights. You know, you're going to move time slots. It's not going to be as weird. It's not going to be as quirky. And I always warned everybody, look, I've been doing this now for 12 years, and the weird has always followed me no matter what time slot I was in. I've done morning drive. I've done nights. I've done overnights. I've done evenings. So it always follows me, and I just think that I'm like a bug zapper. Like the weird bugs will always come out. Last night, to have Meth-head Mark right out of the gates have one of the most unintelligible, weird phone calls I think we've ever had.
It goes right up there with Painkiller Pat.
It's right in there. It might not be Painkiller Pat because Painkiller Pat was a 9 or 11-minute call.
Right, no, of course. I think that's like your standard. I think that's like when you compare a baseball player to Babe Ruth. I don't know if he's Babe Ruth.
Right.
You know, Mickey Mantle was still a legend, too. So I think that's the way you got to look at it. But, yeah, that was a call. And you're talking about on the East Coast, it happened about 6:15 Eastern. That's 3:15 Pacific time. So I almost had to look up the clock. I thought it was 4 a.m. again. Like it took me back to the overnight. So it just goes to show you, doesn't matter what time it is, the loonies will follow you.
I know. So that felt really weird and overnighty. And that kind of set the table because there just happened to be a lot of weird stuff that happened, including you not knowing that Barcelona
thought we were getting past this.
Was not in Mexico. You were doing your football food of the week, and you were promoting your Mexican lasagna for the Super Bowl.
Right,
and I
not
said,
Barcelona's
and
lasagna.
You were so excited that we were taking Italy and putting it in Mexico, and you were so jovial and joyous and excited. And I said, "Where are we going from? If we're taking the plane off, You said, we're taking off from Rome. And I said, well, where are we landing?
I nailed that at least.
I said, where are we landing? And you said, Barcelona.
Like an idiot.
Barcelona, Mexico. And Steve-O next to you, who's now been next to you for about a month now as we've done this new show, absolutely melted down. And I think that was his first window into kind of that element of, you never know what's going to pop out of your mouth, Mraz, when it's really going to be an epic moment.
It is unbelievable. And you know what, though? That was good. That was almost like we were hockey line mates for years because obviously you know I'm terrible with geography.
Terrible.
But for the most part, I think I'm getting better. And when you said you were taking the plane, I should have known there. You were smart to know I was going to take this in the wrong direction. It was like you knew it, you teed it up for me, and I screwed it up even when I should have seen it coming.
I didn't know what city you were going to go with, but
At least I was kind of close. Not the same continent. They still eat Spanish food, right?
How could that be kind of close?
Well, don't they speak the same language?
Well, yeah, I guess. Okay, so Spain speaks Spanish and Mexicans speak Spanish. It's a different kind of Spanish, but, I mean, that's like if you said London is in America. Or
all right, fair, very fair. I'm trying to rationalize this.
Or Sydney was in the United States.
And you brought up a good point. I mean, Sean, don't get cute. Go with the Mexico City there. I don't know. And I've been to Mexico. I went to Cancun. So it's not even like somewhere I've never been
to Mexico a number of times.
So I've been to Mexico, and I still gave you a wrong city. That's what happens when I get cute, and I just got to learn, stick to what I know.
So we had that happen. We also had, when you were telling the Mexican lasagna story about the last time you ate Mexican lasagna, you were getting taunted at Giant Stadium by everybody in the bathroom because they saw your feet under the stall, and they were chanting, "You're shitting."
This guy's bleeping. This guy's bleeping with the clap in between.
They were saying, "This guy shitting."
and clapping. And I sat there, pants around the ankles, just shaking my head. There was nothing I could do. And mind you, this happened with about 6 minutes left in the game. And I remember specifically, Rodgers got pulled. I think it was Scott Tolzan came in. It was a giant pack game where the Giants took control. And I was in there for a solid 15 to the point where everybody I was with had to leave the stadium and go wait, and I had to walk out of the stadium by myself. But then I had to do the walk of shame as everybody was chanting at me, and my face was red. There was nothing I could do.
Oh, man.
But I will always give this advice. If you have to go publicly and in your spot like that, don't be ashamed, because you know what? Those people making fun of you, you're never going to see them again anyway.
That's a good point. We also last night played the Gronk audio of him talking about spiking a football in between butt cheeks.
Which is great.
We had Michael Bennett talking about how much he loves his wife's booty and his sex life, that he's not going to have sex this week up until after the Super Bowl.
Take it all out Sunday night.
We had a murderer's row of weirdness yesterday.
It was good, though. That's what we need back in the show. It was good to get that. And you know what? Once that starts, as you noticed, if you remember last year with the 12 DAs, it was Jumpy Jeff into Steve. Like, that kind of stuff spirals, and it becomes like a common thread. So who knows if, going down the street here with these shows, if this becomes something that kind of catches on again.
I agree. So that was a good show last night, and we had awesome phone calls. The calls have been great, and the tweets have been great all week long for Super Bowl week. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed that, and will continue to. And, tonight's show should be good. Thursday, Friday should be good. A lot of good guests and former players lined up to join us. So that should be a lot of fun. All right, coming up next, Mraz is going to be talking to James Ward, who is planning a coup of the Thictatorship. Ward is going to be known for Ward's winners, his college football picks, kind of taking over Brock's locks role. So we'll see what he says about this Thictatorship overhaul or overthrow. So that's coming up next. Once again, a reminder, we're on iTunes. You can find us on SoundCloud as well. Just search The DA Show, CBS Radio. You'll find the feed. I tweet them out. I put them on Facebook. And every one of these podcasts that you don't hear on the show, the Permission Granted Podcast, is available on our YouTube page as well, youtube.com/The DA Show. Here's Mraz and Ward.
All right, welcome into Side B of the Permission Granted Podcast. It is Super Bowl week, and I am joined by assistant producer of the DA Show, James the Pig Ward. James, how are you?
I will ignore that nickname and say I'm doing well. I'm excited that Super Bowl week is upon us and we can actually talk about the game and not as much deflate gate, footballs, Brady lying, Belichick lying, PSIs. Let's talk about the game.
How about a simple hello, I'm doing good, would have done well, but you went right into it.
Then he called me a pig.
Well,
so I had to kind of avoid that and go in a different direction.
You are a pig, and we're going to get into that. But to get away from the game, I know you just said we're going to talk about the game. I want to know your thoughts right out of the gate, because this was a big topic on the show this week about Marshawn Lynch showing up to Media Day and pulling a Marshawn Lynch and just saying, I'm only here because I'm going to get fined. Do you care about Marshawn Lynch? Are you angered by it?
I don't care at all. If he wants to talk, fine. If he doesn't, that's his prerogative. Obviously, it makes our jobs a lot easier if he does talk. But if he doesn't want to... Or
does it? Because now it's becoming an even bigger story.
Yeah, you know what? I wish that... one of these media days, obviously they have no more media availability, but one of these days he should just, have a huge game, go back to his locker, and have no one around him to ask him a question.
Yeah, but I think he'd like that. Wouldn't he like that?
I don't know. I think it would be... It's weird because you don't know how he'd react to that. Personally, I don't care if he doesn't talk to the media.
I think it's ridiculous. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean... Well, let's face it. The guy's responsibility isn't just to play; it's to talk to the media. And I've mentioned this. He's very charitable. Apparently, all of that is part of being an NFL player. And I would rather him do the Bill Belichick and say he's on to New England or something like that than do what he did, which is just basically spitting in everybody's face. And then the ironic part is he's going to end up getting fined because he wore his own beast mode hat, which he's sitting up there telling everybody he's only there so he won't get fined. Then he goes up there with the stupid hat and he's going to get fined anyway.
The NFL making up fines as they go along is one of the biggest disservices in the history of sports. They just... it's
all about collecting money.
Gold cleats. Oh, we're going to find you X amount of dollars. It's just a made up.
Well, how about when they did that to Peyton Manning? Peyton Manning wanted to wear the black cleats that time to honor Johnny Unitas, and they told him, "No, we're going to fine you." He was going to honor Johnny Unitas. Are you kidding me?
And then they said, Marshawn, if you wear the cleats, you're not allowed to play in the game. We're going to throw you out immediately. The NFL makes stuff up as they go along.
Which, by the way, that would have been interesting. What, they're going to have two refs literally pull him by his neck if he refuses to go? Like, how would they have really enforced that?
And Chad Ochocinco wore gold cleats in a game, paid a $20,000 fine, and that was that. I don't care about Marshawn Lynch. I don't care if he doesn't want to talk to the media. I think that's his choice. Would I rather him speak? Yeah, but I'm not going to say
he's one of the faces of the franchise. Can you give us something? You don't have to be up there.
He doesn't
and
owe
be
it
Rex
to.
Ryan.
Why does he owe us a comment?
Because that's part of his job.
No, it's not. He's paid to play football.
No, he's paid to be an NFL player, and part of being an NFL player is media obligations. It is part of his job.
Does he get more money if he speaks to the press?
No, but that's all it's a package deal. It's not, your performance is your biggest thing, but that's part of being an NFL athlete. Otherwise, why would the media get to cover these games if nobody's ever going to talk?
But he's not the normal. He's the abnormal. I'm just saying there's nothing in his contract that stipulates that he has to talk to the media. I think the thing that's
he's a total jerk is what he is.
I think the thing that's interesting is that the Progressive commercials and the Skittles commercials he had to do to promote that. And he did you see the Progressive commercial that just came out with Kenny Mayne?
I did not.
It's very good. It's a mock interview. Kenny Mayne's kind of asking him questions. Marshawn Lynch isn't answering, and then eventually he gives this whole spiel about Progressive, it's really weird. That kind of makes me feel a little, but he's getting paid for those. He doesn't want to speak at these media days, and I guess it's his decision. It doesn't bother me.
I think he's a total loser, and he's very hard to root for. And that brings me to my next point. Can you remember a Super Bowl? You're a couple years older than me. In our lifetime, where you have two teams that are just impossible to root for. Usually, if you get a good team that you hate, the other team you could care less about, you'll get behind that team and root for if it's not your team. I can't stand, as a fan, I can't stand both these teams. I'm sure most fans probably feel the same way. You got the cheating with the Patriots, and you got guys like Marshawn Lynch, Richard Sherman. They're very hard to root for in Seattle.
I agree with you that these teams are very unlikable. The only one that I can think of in my lifetime, and obviously as a Giants fan like you are, when the Eagles played the Patriots in the Super Bowl.
Okay, that's a toughie.
I couldn't root for either of those teams. Obviously, I had the McNabb, the T.O.
Yeah, because T.O. made it tough. But was New England that hateable at that time yet?
No, but as a New York fan, you hate the Boston team.
Okay.
I don't know if they were unlikable nationally as these two
they are
teams,
now.
But as a Giants fan, I didn't like either of those teams.
All right, that's fair, but it's very rare that happens because usually you could find a rooting interest in the Super Bowl because depending on the allegiance you have to your team or just in general, you're going to dislike. Odds are you're going to dislike one of the teams. It's rare that you dislike both, and I would say I bet you the majority of the country has a dislike for both teams. I really feel that way. It's very tough.
And I really don't like the Patriots, but I don't really hate the Seahawks. I think it'd be interesting if they won back-to-back for the first time since that New England team that we were talking about before. I know you don't really like Richard Sherman. I think the defense is impressive.
No, the defense is great. It's just I feel like their act is worn thin here.
But I don't mind their cockiness. I kind of like it. And especially in a league that's so pass-heavy, they have a defense that, if they win this year, could go down as an all-time defense.
And that's true. It's always good to see history. Do you think the Seahawks will – give me a prediction. Seahawks are going to win the game?
Yeah, I think the Seahawks win by 2 touchdowns.
See, I agree. And I would say it's probably double digits, too. Everybody – that's the other thing. Everybody is hyping up this game like this is the best matchup that we've seen in a long time where the game was close to a pick-em, I think, when it first came out in the Vegas spread. I don't see it this way. I think if you've watched the Patriots the last 10 years or even this year, the teams that can get after and hit Brady and constantly put pressure on him, those are the teams the Patriots crumble against, and the Giants did it in those Super Bowls. The Seahawks are the absolute worst matchup for New England in this spot. I think that defense just buckles down Brady. Now you're going to say, will Russell Wilson throw those picks like he did against Green Bay? Well, Russell Wilson notoriously plays safe. The teams that usually can gash the run on New England can kill them, and Marshawn Lynch could do that. I think this is a really bad matchup for New England, and I tend to agree with you. I think this is a double-digit win for Seattle.
I don't see this being as much of a blowout as last year, but you could argue that the Broncos of last year were better than New England of this year.
The Broncos of last year better. I think the New England defense is better.
The New England defense is probably a little bit better, but the Seattle defense is better. Peyton was playing better than Brady. They had an actual run game.
And you could argue Seattle's actually better. I know they don't have Golden Tate, but they're actually better this year because of their season. Like, they've already been through that game already and know what it was like. The Seahawks are going to come into this game, there's no question, with all the confidence of the world. And I think there's more pressure on New England here. Seattle, this is house money. They already won the Super Bowl last year. Russell Wilson's a young quarterback. The clock's ticking on Brady and Belichick to win another. I think there's much more pressure, and I think Seattle's going to thrive off that in this spot.
Right. You talk about the pressure with the Patriots. 4-2 in the Super Bowl versus 3-3 is a big difference. If they
Huge
fall
difference.
to 5, I mean, it takes a lot to get to 6 Super Bowls, but if they go 3-3 and Belichick and Brady don't make it back, that's a little chip on the legacy.
And 0-3 since Spygate came down, and now since Deflategate has come down, they won't have won if they don't win this game. So there's a lot of pressure. Be really interesting. To be honest, I'm really riding Seattle here. I think I'm going to have to pony up a couple shekels.
Yeah, I think Seattle 2 touchdowns.
All right, interesting. Now
And the line was back and forth. I think it was a pick'em. Might be New England -1 now.
I don't see
Might
it.
be 1 point, but
I would jump all over Seattle in that spot. I love Seattle in this game. Now, you have kind of tried to take the mantle on this show since you started working with us last month. As I said at the beginning, the pig. You eat a lot more than I do. In a 4-hour show, you're eating multiple dinners. I'm sitting there drinking my diet shakes 2 to 4 times a day. You got to drink the shake.
You got to drink the shake.
Super Bowl Sunday is the second biggest eating day besides Thanksgiving in the American calendar. What will James Ward be sitting there chowing down on?
Well, I have a little interesting schedule. I'll be here working.
Okay.
I'll be producing all day Sunday. I'll get out at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. I will most likely take a cab so that I get home before kickoff.
So you get out at 6, kickoff 6:25, 6:40?
Somewhere between 6:20 and 6:30, 6:35.
Okay. You probably missed the anthem, that whole deal. It takes about 6 minutes in itself.
Right. I'll miss all the pregame festivities. I'm not really sure what I'll be eating. I'd like to order wings. I'd like to have some kind of pasta dish, some burgers, maybe pizza. The thing is that I could probably...
pasta dish, like what? Like an alla vodka or a ziti?
Yeah, like a linguine and clams.
Linguine and clams? When I think Super Bowl Sunday, I don't think linguine and clams.
My goal is to eat the entire day. Maybe some nachos.
Your goal is to eat the entire day, so you do prep eating throughout the day while you're at work?
I'll probably eat breakfast. I'll probably have like 2 egg and cheese sandwiches.
Super Bowl Sunday, you're already doing yourself a disservice having egg and cheese sandwiches on Super Bowl Sunday.
If I don't eat every 3 hours, you don't want to be around me.
Yeah, I understand that. But Super Bowl Sunday, you want your meals to be like an innings eater in a game. You know what I mean? You don't want to come out there with your ace on Super Bowl Sunday right out the gate early. You know, have a little oatmeal, a little cereal. You want to hit it hard with Mariano Rivera late and just shut everything down with some hardcore food. But, I mean, linguine and clams a little rough. You got to make sure you prep yourself and have stuff ready to go when you get home because you start dialing the phone. All of a sudden, the first quarter's over. You haven't even paid attention, and you've ordered 15 things.
No, I think my girlfriend will be making some football snacks, maybe some like avocado type.
See, the avocado's lame. That's a lame snack.
I forgot that you don't like avocado.
It's a lame snack. The guacamole, I'm not into it. And I love, Mexican food, salsas, chips, all that. The avocado is so lame. So lame.
What's wrong with avocado?
It's a pathetic football food. It's pathetic.
You don't like guacamole?
No, it's disgusting. It looks like I snotted into a bowl and I'm dipping my chip in it. It's disgusting.
Let me ask you this question. Do you like any food that's green?
I love broccoli.
You like broccoli?
Love green M&Ms.
Now, could you eat like a stalk of broccoli?
Yeah, 100%. Got to be cooked, though. I need it steamed. I need it sauteed.
You see, you want it sauteed with butter and garlic.
It doesn't have to even be
not
butter.
Broccoli.
No, I could even steam it with no seasoning at all. I just need it hot. I can't be these guys, when they have the carrot and broccoli platter and you're breaking them off and you're sticking them in whatever dressing there. I can't do that.
Little hummus?
I need hummus, too. Hummus, guacamole, tuna fish. You might as well throw them in a blender, throw them in the ocean, and never to be seen again.
So you
They're
like
disgusting.
broccoli and green M&Ms?
Yeah.
That's the extent of the green food that you
sauteed
like.
asparagus. I'm trying to think if there's anything else green. Any green candy, I'm in the mix. Anything.
Green Airheads?
Yeah, that's
green
great.
Gatorade?
Anything green with sugar in it, I'm all about. So yeah, green M&Ms and broccoli would be my 2 favorite green foods. 100%.
All right.
100%. I don't know.
Mine's avocado.
I don't know. So you're planning on doing wings. I'm probably going to do a major wing situation. The mozzarella sticks. I'm sure some penny alla vodka. Like you said, you always need
maybe
that
some
ziti.
sliders.
Yeah, that's good. My dad usually is good for like the 3-foot hero too, which is interesting.
The 3-foot hero is a good Super Bowl snack.
Which is crazy because you sit there and we watch football all year long and eat like pigs. when I watch the games. And we never do like a hero all year long. It's always like the random snacks. What about the Super Bowl makes you want to up that ante and go, okay, well, now we need this to watch football with? Well, how come you just can't stick with what you've eaten, even though it was gluttonous amounts all year anyway? I'm always curious about that. Why do we change for the Super Bowl?
The thing for me with the Super Bowl is I don't actually get to watch a lot of football games from my house because I'm usually here on Sunday afternoon.
Which stinks. Those hours stink.
It's hard.
Right. You're not sitting there like me looking at my pictures that I take.
No, I mean, I'm in studio producing Eye on Football, and I'm watching all the games, and I know what happens in every game, but I don't get to watch any of them.
Right.
It's a little bit different when you're on the couch with your slippers and your food in front of you, just pigging out, picking guacamole
pants,
out of your belly button.
Not guacamole. And you're right, though. What I pick out of my belly button does look like guacamole, hence why I'd never eat it. It's disgusting.
A little cheese dust.
It's disgusting. This little white cheddar popcorn. The white cheddar popcorn's a good treat, too.
Now, you probably don't like pirate booty either. That's a little too healthy for you.
No, and the name is just too wacky for me. Pirate booty. You know it's not as good as real booty.
That's
right.
Accurate statement.
Thank you. Arr.
I don't know why we up our game for Super Bowl. I think a lot of people have parties around Super Bowl, and you have all the casual people that they're not there for the football.
So they need their dinner.
You need the food to be pretty good.
But see, that's what's crazy. See, for me, the guys we watch the game with and the girls are usually the same people, for the most part, that have either been constantly at my parents' house or wherever, if we're watching my apartment, every Sunday. It's very rare that we get the casuals come in there, but we still up it for the Super Bowl. And I'm just thinking to myself, I don't know why we do that. Just stick with what we do every Sunday. We're stuffed anyway. But you know what? I guess it's the big game, right? So we got to roll out the big meal.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a big salad. Now, James, you actually were off, too. DA's documented the snowstorm that really wasn't a monster snowstorm where guys are basically sleeping on floors, sleeping in desks. We had a couple guys here sleeping on Gottlieb's desk, underneath Gottlieb's desk, treating it like bunk beds. You ended up being off, so you didn't have anything to do with this snowstorm.
Yeah, I went home Sunday night. Everyone was talking about Juno, blizzard of 2015, snowpocalypse.
Right.
I go to the gym Monday. I get out of my gym clothes. I get into my pajamas, and I lay on the couch for the next 24 hours, watching TV, eating, hanging out with my dog, hanging out with my girlfriend.
See, now, you don't have the greatest work hours because you do have to work the weekends. But in a case like this week, I would say you lucked out with good hours because your days off happened with the snowstorm and you didn't have to go anywhere.
Right. I was literally not inconvenienced at all by the snowstorm.
And now a little side story. And, James, I don't know if you remember this. When we were part-timers together, I remember it was one of those hurricanes. It might have been Hurricane Sandy.
Irene.
I was Irene. Okay, whatever it was, I bailed. I took off, and I got coverage for it. You were here basically like 3 straight days.
Oh, that was Sandy.
Oh, it was Sandy. Power was out, everything. The bosses were out, and all the hogs behind the scenes were doing a great job, and I was the one hog. I was a fraud. I bailed. I wanted no part of being stuck in here. I showed up back to work basically an hour before the bosses showed up back to work. James had basically been here forever. I tagged him out. He was gone after 3 days. The bosses came up to me and thanked me and appreciated the fact that I was there and I made it into work no problem, which had gone down as kind of a funny thing behind the scenes that you were the guy basically carrying the ball 90 yards, and here I am as the fat running back.
Yeah, you were the touchdown vulture.
Basically putting it in the end zone and taking high fives from the bosses. And I remembered that story. I thought that was very funny. And just, now the shoe was on the other foot where I really did get stuck and you got to be home here.
Yeah, I think that.
Do you feel vindicated?
That week, I think I was here for 3 days. No power anywhere. I think I worked at, every shift for 3 days because you didn't have anywhere to go.
Exactly. So you were just picking up doubles and triples and whatever else.
I remember walking to my brother's apartment, which is about 60 blocks away. So like 3 or 4 miles up Park Avenue in the middle of the night, dark, no lights, no
the blackout,
cars,
everything,
no people.
The power was out.
Yeah.
Oh man! So for all those who enjoyed their snow days, just know the grunts here in radio, we don't get the days off. Our clock keeps ticking, and we got to be here. And people are sleeping on floors and everything else like that. But James Ward got to enjoy himself in the snowstorm that wasn't, while people like me had to stay. And I was happy to finally get home. So there's that. But hopefully now I'll be home all day eating on Sunday while James is at work rushing home to get his wings. But, James, that's going to do it here for the Permission Granted podcast, our Super Bowl edition of the Permission Granted podcast here, at least on Side B. Thank you, as always. You could follow James on Twitter at JamesWardCBS. Did I nail that, James?
You did.
Okay.
And before we wrap it up, we're both the same boat, Seattle by a comfy margin.
100%. I'm hammering Seattle in this game. So, yeah, you got our official picks there. You can follow me on Twitter at MrazCBS. I made that nice, short, and sweet for you. And listen, everybody eat up on Sunday. And then you know what? After that, go work out in the gym in February. But if you don't eat on Sunday, I have no confidence in you as a human to ever be able to sit there and munch on a good day. Sunday has to be your eating day. James, agree?
I think every day's your eating day.
Okay. All right. Says the
I think
pig.
you can eat more, but you should eat. What is your line? You have to eat like this.
You need to eat like this. Can you get the drop right if you're going to work on the show? You need to eat like this.
You need to eat like this.
Yeah, and your voice is squeaking like you're a 13-year-old again.
Well, I was just doing your voice.
Oh, shut up. All right. Well, that's it. That'll do it for us. Enjoy your Super Bowl Sunday, everyone.